Another number one recruit at their position has committed to LSU. Over the weekend, Tyler Miller, the number one interior offensive lineman, made his pledge to the Tigers. Now, this is the fourth commitment from the 2025 class, ranked as the number one prospect at his position to commit to LSU. And in this video, we're going to talk about who could be the next recruit to commit to LSU. I got Shea Dixon on this one, but first, LSU fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. Okay. Let's bring on Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger. And Shea, we're talking about who's trending to LSU. Let's start with interior offensive lineman Micah Deos. We've talked a lot about him on this show. 96% on the RPM to LSU right now. But Micah Deos was at Auburn over the weekend, and we know that that's the team that he was trending to previously. Any concern over Deos' visit to Auburn?
I don't think there is concern as much as LSU knows that's been the main competition. We've talked about it before that Chad Simmons, our On3 National Recruiting Director, moved his On3 RPM pick from Auburn to LSU during February's dead period. So it was evident that LSU had started to really trend here. I'll tell you what makes this one interesting, and we'll talk more about this in a moment. LSU lands over the weekend Tyler Miller, the number one interior offensive lineman in America on On3. That gives LSU 3 O-line commits and now 2 top 100 O-line commits with Devin Harper as well. And then you've got Brett Bordelon, On3 Industry 4-star on board. Brad Davis, the offensive line coach at LSU, is on fire. I mean, cycle after cycle. Now, Josh, with 3 commitments already on the O-line, what do you normally take? You usually take 4 or 5. They went heavy last year and took 6. Well,
right.
The next guy up that everybody's watching is Micah Deos, or at least one of them. Micah Deos, as you said, was at Auburn. He had planned out a number of visits. Then he tells On3 over the weekend, following the Auburn visit, shaking things up, I'll be at LSU next weekend. This came after Tyler Miller announced his commitment. So I almost get the sense that dominoes are dropping in Baton Rouge. It feels like a game of musical chairs for offensive linemen, which you definitely don't want to be the last one standing in that group. I feel like Micah Deos now heads to town once again on commitment watch. Could this be the weekend he shuts things down?
Yeah, Micah Deos does not want to miss the seat when the music stops, so we will see if he's ready to make his pledge. Speaking about guys that are trending heavily towards LSU, James Simon, he dropped a top 7 recently, about a month ago, and was on campus at LSU about a week ago. Who do you see as the biggest competition for James Simon, running back right now?
It's tough to say. I think a lot of out-of-state schools have made an impression on him. I mean, A&M has been on him heavily. Texas has tried to be on him heavily. And even into the Georgias, Alabamas, all of these schools have hosted him at different points. Florida, he's taken his time to kind of really look around at all options. That being said, you noted he's got a top 7. LSU's locked down Louisiana this cycle. There isn't a guy that they've offered and been after that hasn't committed to them, except James Simon. So he's been on commit watch for months now, because we've known LSU and Frank Wilson, one of the best recruiters in America, certainly with running backs, wanted that 1-2 punch of Harlem Berry and James Simon, 2 Louisiana prospects, both top 10 running backs nationally. Harlem being a 5-star at number 1. We've got James Simon as the number 8 running back. Who wouldn't want them both? And LSU's gone all in for it. So LSU is still the team to beat. Simon told us he's going to come back again this month. So while he is going to be on a bit of a whirlwind tour of visits, and he's already talked about officials, with Louisiana kids, you just never know. And with college coaching staffs, they could have them convinced that, hey, if you're ready to do it, shut it down at some point. So I kind of move forward each time he's around by putting him on commit watch.
Smart. All right, let's move on to offensive lineman Lamont Rogers, who's trending to LSU at 81%. Now, he's out of Mesquite, Texas, and he goes 6'7", 305. We just talked about not having much room in the offensive line class. Does Lamont Rogers have a spot if he wants it?
I think the answer is yes, and I think as I talked about the musical chairs at offensive line, when you recruit this well like Brad Davis has done, you start to get to just pick, right? Who's on your board, who do you really like, and tell them, hey, we're filling up. Come to campus. The time's now. Let's add another visitor for this weekend. Not only Micah Deos, but Lamont Rogers will be back to campus as well on March 22nd. So we get the sense for a top 10 offensive tackle that he's looking at what OU, A&M. There's been a number of schools that have really tried to get into the mix here, but LSU's always been considered the team to beat. I don't think it's kind of out of left field that quickly after they land Tyler Miller, who admitted that he silently committed during his visit a week ago, just didn't go public till this past weekend, that 3 linemen in, do you take 5? Well, if you do, the first 2 names we're mentioning are Micah Deos and Lamont Rogers. Now Brad Davis has both those guys coming in this weekend for another visit.
All right. Now, the last player we're going to hit on is on the defensive line. We're going to talk Corey Adams, and he's from New Orleans, and he's trending at 99% to LSU. Now, if the RPM hits 100%, do we just list him as a commitment automatically? How's this work?
Yeah, you get 99% by going to schools like Edna Carr in New Orleans. I mean, LSU's got a number of Edna Carr kids on roster. They've got a commitment right now from the state's number 1 wide receiver in Teron Francis, who's an Edna Carr senior, as well as Corey Adams. So those 2 are the 2 they're after. Corey on the D-line. They don't have any D-line commitments yet. Yeah. And Josh, the only D-lineman in Louisiana, and this is rare, the only D-lineman right now that's got an offer is Corey Adams. So they definitely want to get him on board. We threw our on-3 RPM picks in following his visits. He'll check out USC, Southern Cal. They've got some connections there thanks to some staff hires they've made. But that being said, you look at Edna Carr, and they've got Aiden Hall, one of the top players in America for on-3 for next year. They've got Richard Anderson on the D-line, another one of the top players in America on the on-3 top 300. Mm-hmm. Both those guys ranked as top 150 prospects. So I don't think it's just Corey Adams or just Teron Francis. I think we see LSU go on a bit of an Edna Carr run here, not just in this class, but now we look to next year's class with guys like Anderson and Hall, who are ranked as top 150 prospects.
All right, so that leads me to my next question. Who's the next off the board? Is it somebody that we just mentioned that's trending, or do you have another name in mind?
Tough for me. I think these Edna Carr kids, they never surprise me. They could pop at any point. If it's a Corey Adams or something like that, Richard Anderson, I could see it. But if we're talking 2025 class, right, this number 1 class, it just keeps getting richer. Now they've added their 4th player who ranks number 1 at their position in Tyler Moore. I would say that why bet against Brad Davis? He's got Micah Deos coming in. He's got Lamont Rogers coming in this weekend. I'll go O-line, and I'll double down. I'm not fun with this, right? I did this last time. I'll still pick Micah Deos as the next to commit.
All right. And yeah, I can see how that, the Tyler Miller commitment kind of shakes things up for Micah Deos and his recruitment. If he wants to go to LSU, he's going to need to claim that spot soon. We'll see what happens. We know Micah Deos is coming in this coming weekend, but what's the next big visit weekend for LSU?
They'll do a number of weekends like this. They like to get guys in for practices. So they'll have 10, 15 guys in each weekend almost from 2025 to 2026 and beyond. But the spring game is early, April 13th. We're already midway through March. So in a little less than a month, I think that will be their next really big one. Bryce Underwood will be back, kind of the headliners of the class, and then a number of their uncommitted targets. So circle the spring date. April 13th is one where a lot of guys have told us that they plan to be back on campus.
All right. Really exciting offseason for LSU. They have the number 1 class in America. You guys go to the Bengal Tiger. You guys do an unbelievable job of covering all things recruiting and spring football and women's basketball. A lot going on right now at the Bengal Tiger. Shea Dixon, appreciate you stopping by the Inside Scoop.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.